this video, I'll be discussing pruning citrus trees. I get a lot of questions about pruning citrus. There seems to be a lot of misunderstanding in the subject. In short, if I don't say anything else on it, citrus trees require less pruning than any other fruit tree we grow. And so heavy pruning in citrus is usually counterproductive and is not a real good idea. We tend to prune citrus trees not for fruiting or for the tree's needs. We prune them mostly for our human needs. So if the trees don't fit into the space where we've planted them and they're reaching onto our roof, onto the eaves, well, then we're going to prune back a branch so that we don't get critters running across the top of the roof from the trees. We tend to shape them up so they kind of stay into the places where we've put them. That's normal behavior, I think, when pruning citrus, and it's something that's going to be good for the trees and for the homeowner. Periodically, we may also do some pruning in citrus trees to reduce the height of the plants, so it's a little bit easier to get the fruit down. On some plants, like say lemons and limes, they tend to grow very, very tall, and it's really kind of difficult to keep most varieties, other than Meyer lemon, close enough to the earth to pick by hand. Usually some sort of a fruit picker is going to be easier there. It's not the best idea to try to keep, say, like a Barris lime or a Eureka lemon trimmed all the way down so we can reach a piece of fruit by hand. Trees naturally just grow bigger than that. But again, sizing the trees is another good reason why we might prune citrus. But unlike pears, peaches, apples, nectarines, and many of the other common fruit, plums, we don't go into the trees and thin them. We don't go into the trees and open the cores of the trees up. Nor do we cut the wood back to renew wood. Citrus are what's called closed canopy trees, meaning that the outside of the tree should always have foliage all the way around. Now, if you prune peaches, or if you're pruning cherries or pruning plums, these stone fruits, you know that we cut the center of the trees open, like on apricots, for instance, so that the sunlight penetrates inside the tree and outside the tree. That way we get fruit in and out and good air circulation through the plants. On citrus, that is not only not necessary, but it's a real bad idea. The citrus bark sunburns easily. There's chlorophyll in the bark, and if you expose the inside trunks of the trees to harsh sunlight, you will probably start to get sunburn on the limbs. That's not good for the trees. If you live in a cooler climate like the Bay Area here, well, we can get by with pruning the citrus trees a little bit harder without any damage. But if you live in Phoenix, Arizona, and you take a grapefruit and prune it back so it looks like a peach tree, you're probably going to burn all the bark right off of the limbs during the middle of August. And so you want to keep those trees closed. You want to make sure the outside of the canopy always has leaves on it. And again, there really isn't any pruning done in citrus that is for the benefit of the tree. Okay, we're not trying to renew wood or grow new fruiting spurs or anything. The trees will continue growing outwards, setting flowers and setting fruit all over the outside of the canopy as they grow, pretty much no matter what you do as a gardener. So remember that. The pruning is for the gardener, not for the citrus tree. Now, all of that said, different types of citrus trees tend to grow in different ways. Right here in the lens, we have an Owari Satsuma mandarin orange. The Owari Satsuma grows horizontally. So this plant isn't a vertical, vigorous grower. It usually ends up laying most of its wood sideways. So pruning in Owaris, every now and then, I might go up to the top of the tree. In fact, I think I might do that this year. We have one shoot that's really pretty high up there in the air, and I might clip that back a little to make it easier to pick. But otherwise, my issues with Satsuma is it's right here on the edge of my garden row. My artichokes are here, and onions and so on, and these branches tend to grow outside of the tree a little bit too far, and I have to prune them back in order to pass through here. This tree here is the Mineola tangelo, and it is similar, again, to Owari Satsuma in the way it grows. It usually grows wider than it does tall. And so pruning project here again is mostly to go ahead and remove branches that have come too far out so that they don't get into our walk rows. Right here's the post for my raspberry trellises, and right there is my mineola. I'm going to have to do a little bit of pruning here, I think, because I won't be able to walk through here soon. Stepping back from the image a bit, here you can see how both of these trees, they're really side by side there, looking like one. These trees tend to grow horizontally. And so that tends to be the pruning that's done with them, is to keep them into a tighter unit so they don't spread all over the place. This plant right here is a Nagami kumquat. And the Nagami kumquat, again, very round plant. This one probably just about as much up as it is out and down. The plant tends to be even in all directions. So it's really a pretty easy tree to keep in shape because it's basically a sphere. Now back here though, we can see in the foreground I have a Bear's lime, again very vertical growing tree. Behind that, up high in the air over there, we got an old Eureka lemon. Eureka lemons tend to grow extremely vertical, and so taking down some of the higher wood in the tree periodically is probably a good system. This is the Washington Navel orange. It's out in my front yard. Again, Washington Navel, citrus tree that tends to grow round. Often I find that homeowners like to carve the citrus trees so that the trunks are exposed. That actually isn't the best idea in the world. Citrus tend to grow and fruit better on the lower hanging branches of the tree. And so you tend to get a lot more fruit right down here near the ground. You see all the little flower buds there setting the fruit right here, right around my kneecap. So there's one reason that we don't prune the bottom off on them. Another reason is that they don't really like to have sunlight underneath the citrus tree, so that the lower portion of the trunk and the ground beneath is in perfect shade is actually very beneficial for the tree. The trees don't like sunlight on their trunks, nor do the trees like to have sunlight on the ground underneath. Keeping a good mulch on the ground underneath the tree is a really good idea, and if it's under here in the shade rather than exposed to the sun, you get a nice humid forest type of environment. We grow a lot of leaf mold and a lot of roots and worms close to the surface. That makes these trees very happy. Now this particular tree here, I have actually pruned the inside of the tree so that it's a room. And I take all the slashings from my lavender and my ulstrom area and everything else I grow out here in the front yard, and I toss it underneath the tree for compost. It doesn't show from the street, so it's great. My compost heap is hidden under the tree. I have pruned a doorway into the underside of the tree so I can walk in and out. And I'd say that's about as much as you really want to cut away from the lower portion of a citrus tree. It's just so you can get inside there. On the top of this satsuma, we can see a little bit of shoot that's heading straight up above the tree. Now often customers will call me and have me prune all of those shoots back in the top of the tree. It's not a bad thing to do. You can do it. But if you ever take one of those shoots that goes straight up above your tree, tie a little pink ribbon on that thing and then watch it for a couple of years, what you'll find is that usually once the branch flowers and fruits and then loads up with the weight of the oranges, it'll turn and head backwards down towards the ground, and sometimes nearly hit the ground eventually. And so what looks like it's going to be an elevation problem with vigorous growth, this is particularly on lemons, you'll see this, eventually ends up dangling branches from fruit weight. And so don't panic just because you see shoots coming straight up off the top of your trees. Once they fruit, the gravity will pull them downward. So in reality, most of the pruning that would be done to citrus trees every year is actually for the dead wood, like that twig right there. Because citrus are closed canopy, meaning they cover the outside with leaves, they often will overgrow weaker wood on the inside, and so we have shoots that die, and this happens every year. And so going inside your citrus tree, looking for the dead shoots, and then pruning them out is really, I think, the most important pruning job that's done in any citrus tree every year. There's another one right there. Another piece of dead wood in my tree. Let me just snip them out, that's all. that's I'd say is probably a good 80% of what I do with my citrus trees every year. It's just removing that dead wood from the overgrowth. So then, to continue the discussion about pruning citrus, I would like to give you some disgusting discussion. That is discussion of what can happen when you allow the tree butchers into your citrus trees. I have some images of trees that live around the corner from me over here, where the trees have been abused by practitioners of some sort or another. They call themselves tree pruners. They're really not. But I could show you the worst case scenarios of what happens when it's all done wrong. All right. Here's a beautiful and healthy navel orange tree. You can see all the brand new growth, blossoms coming out everywhere, and up high there there's still a little bit of fruit left in the tree. This tree lives in my front yard. It's been well tended. It gets a good thick organic mulch under the tree, periodic feeding with organic fertilizers, limited pest control, and really just enough pruning to be able to make it fit in the place where it's located. Here we have citrus trees, exactly the same variety. They're navel oranges. They're also living in the same neighborhood as my tree, but these trees are in horrible condition. I believe that the original problem started because they're in lawn and somebody was using weed control in the lawns. These were showing dead wood in the canopies, so they hired the tree butchers, I would not call these guys tree trimmers, to come on in and scalp the top of the trees. This is bad. Citrus is a closed canopy tree. The leaves are supposed to completely cover the outside of the canopy at all times. The interior of the tree should never be exposed to the sun. The bark sunburns. Also, they will sometimes get Phytophthora diseases, and this much pruning will usually spread the Phytophthora throughout the plant. Here's the absolute worst case scenario. It's another navel orange. It's in the same neighborhood as mine, again, around the corner. Pretty sure that the problem started the same way. They were using weed killers in the lawn. The tree sucked them up and started to kill some of the wood in the tree from the weed killers. So they called up those maniac tree trimmers who came in and brutally pruned the top of the tree. In the process, it looks like the tree trimmer probably spread Phytophthora throughout the entire citrus tree. The bark is burned and falling off in places. There's only one tiny little puff of green growth left on one trunk in the center of the tree. So that was a little talk about the best case and the worst case scenarios when it comes to pruning citrus. I hope you picked up a thing or two. It really doesn't require a lot of work. So if you don't know what to do with the citrus tree, my best suggestion is feed it, water it, pick it. Don't bother cutting at it. Again, the cutting is done mostly for human need, not for the plant's need. Bear that in mind. And extreme cutting on citrus is always a risky proposition. So enjoy your orange juice, have some lemonade or a lime with your tequila next time you're getting slamming drunk. And thanks a lot for watching my video series here, and hopefully imparted a little bit of wisdom that you can carry into your own garden.